When I was 13 years old, a seemingly ordinary walk to the park with two friends turned into one of the most terrifying moments of my life. We were walking from my neighborhood, crossing a busy street to reach the park in the next neighborhood over. It was a warm day, and our chatter filled the air as we moved along without a care in the world. Just after we crossed the street, we heard someone shout from a beat-up Suburban driving by. They yelled, "Drugs or dick?" The three of us looked at each other, puzzled by the strange and vulgar comment. It was bizarre, but we brushed it off, chalking it up to some random weirdo trying to mess with us. Little did we know that this was just the beginning. As we continued walking, the Suburban returned, slowing down in front of us. One of my friends, let's call her Anna, recognized one of the guys inside the vehicle. He was a neighbor of hers. She started flirting with him, seemingly unfazed by the unsettling comment they had made earlier. At one point, she took out a Sharpie and drew a smiley face on his arm, giggling as she did it. But her playful gesture took a dark turn. Without warning, the guy snapped. He stormed out of the Suburban, grabbed her, and threw her into a nearby ditch. Then, he took the Sharpie and started drawing all over her. Her face, arms, any exposed skin. His actions were erratic and aggressive, leaving her stunned and bewildered. Anna lay in the ditch for a moment, clearly shaken but not seriously injured. My other friend, let's call him Andrew, and I tried to process what had just happened. Andrew stood behind the Suburban, visibly freaked out, while I was closer to Anna, trying to make sure she was okay. But before we could even think about how to respond, the situation escalated. The driver of the Suburban got out, walked straight toward me, and without a word, picked me up. He slung me over his shoulder like I was a bag of potatoes and threw me into the back of the Suburban through the double doors. It happened so fast, I barely had time to react. I landed inside the vehicle in shock, trying to make sense of what was happening. I looked back through the windows and saw Anna and Andrew frozen in place, their faces filled with disbelief. Was this some kind of twisted joke, or was I in real danger? I started looking around the back of the Suburban, trying to stay calm and assess the situation. The first thing I noticed was a potato launcher. There were also tools, a baseball bat, and a rope scattered around. The sight of these items sent a chill down my spine. They weren't just random objects. They felt ominous and purposeful. I moved to the single seat behind the passenger seat in the main cab and sat down, trying to pay attention to where we were going. I figured if I could memorize the route, I'd have a better chance of finding my way back to safety. Meanwhile, the two men in the Suburban talked like I wasn't even there. Their conversation was horrifying. They started discussing where the best spot to rape someone would be, throwing out suggestions and laughing. My stomach churned, and I knew I had to keep my wits about me. At one point, they offered me a drink. It was in a water bottle, and the liquid inside was slightly opaque. I assumed it was laced with drugs, and my adrenaline-fueled brain told me to take it, but I threw it out the window as quickly as I could. Looking back, I realized how risky that move was. It could have provoked them further, but I refused to put myself in a position where I was drugged and defenseless. After what felt like an eternity, they pulled into a secluded park. It was the kind of park you wouldn't notice unless you knew it was there, hidden from the main road by a dense line of trees. As we drove in, I saw a family with two small children packing up to leave. That sight gave me a glimmer of hope. I just needed to get to them. The Suburban kept going, driving onto the grass to reach the very end of the park. The men stopped the vehicle, got out, and started sharing a cigarette, completely ignoring me. Their casual demeanor made my presence feel insignificant, like they had all the time in the world to do whatever they wanted. But their distraction gave me an opportunity. I noticed that the doors were locked, but the window was open. My heart raced as I thought about my next move. Without hesitating, I climbed out of the window and ran as fast as I could toward the family's car. I didn't look back. I just kept running, zigzagging to make myself harder to catch. Somehow, I made it to the family before the men could reach me. They saw my panic and immediately called 911. The men, realizing I was with the family, got back into their Suburban and tried to chase me down, but I managed to dodge them. By the time the cops arrived, the men had left the park, but for some reason, they came back. Maybe they didn't realize the police were already there. As soon as the cops spotted them, they arrested them. For their crimes, they spent 2 weeks in jail and received 2 years of probation. It felt like a slap on the wrist for what they had done. But the nightmare didn't end there. One day, as I was walking to check the mail, I saw that same beat-up Suburban. My blood ran cold when I realized one of the men had moved in 2 houses down from me. The sight of him sent me into a panic, and I wasted no time in getting a restraining order. Even then, the fear didn't fully go away. I'd see the Suburban around town from time to time, and every encounter brought back the terror of that day. Years later, I found out from Anna that one of the men had died from a drug overdose. I wasn't sad. I couldn't be. Knowing he was no longer around brought a strange sense of relief, but the trauma of what happened still lingers.